Hello everybody and welcome to Books with Ike. My name is Isaac and today I'm going to be showing you my birthday book haul. I got a lot of books for my birthday, but before I talk about those I want to talk about some books that I bought myself just after. And the first of those was Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in the Last Hours series, which is part of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and it follows the children of the characters from the Infernal Devices. And this is about a Shadowhunter called Cordelia Carstairs, who moves to London to try and ingratiate herself with powerful Shadowhunters for political reasons. And just as she arrives in London, a new type of demon appears, which has the ability to walk in daylight and carries a deadly plague. Topical. So, I have already finished this book. I think I finished it in 3 days, and I started it the day it came out. I'll talk more about it in my wrap-up for this month, but I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4.5 stars. And the other book I got for myself was Magic's Pawn by Mercedes Lackey. This is the first book in the Valdemar the Last Herald Mage series, which I believe is the second series in the overall Valdemar universe. And this is essentially the very first book that ever comes up if you Google gay fantasy, and that's why I wanted it, pretty much. I don't fully know what the plot is, but I do know that it's about a guy with powerful magic who doesn't want to be a mage, but has to be trained as one, because otherwise his magic is dangerous. But I've also heard that that synopsis is inaccurate, so we'll see. I'm planning to read this for the Bookie Trials Royal Weekender, so I'll be getting around to it quite soon. Next I want to talk about some sequels that I got to books that I already own. So first I got Saga Volume 4 and Volume 5 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. And these were got for me by my brother, and he also got the last 2 volumes for me. So I talked about Saga very recently in my Every Book I Read in 2019 video, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But it's a story about 2 members of warring races who fall in love and have a kid, and everyone else wants them dead. So I've already read both of these. I gave Volume 4 4 stars, and Volume 5 5 stars. Which is appropriate, I suppose, and I'll talk more about them in my wrap-up. And the rest of the books my parents got me. So the next sequel I have to talk about is Red Skies Falling by Alex London, and this is the sequel to Black Wings Beating, and it is the second book in the Skybound trilogy. Again, I talked about Skybound in my Every Book I Read in 2019 video, so I'll be brief with the summary, but it's basically set in a world where everything revolves around birds of prey, and the most important, deadly, and feared of these birds of prey is the ghost eagle, which our protagonists have to capture. Its own voices for gay representation, and there might be some aromantic representation, but that's not confirmed. I enjoyed Black Wings Beating. I did have some quite significant problems with it, but I think this book will be even better. And the last sequel I have to talk about is The King of Crows by Libba Bray, and this is the 4th and final book in the Diviners series. Again, I talked about the Diviners in that previous video, but it's basically Prohibition-era supernatural horror. I've only read the first book, and I really enjoyed it and gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but I feel like the series has the potential to become a favourite of mine, so I'm very much looking forward to binge reading these last 3 books. And the rest of these books have nothing to do with any of the books I already owned. They're just starts of new series or standalones. Just random books. Anyway, firstly I've got 3 or maybe 4 YA books. I'm not sure if the 4th one is YA or not. And the first of those is I Hope You Get This Message by Farah Nazrishi, or Farah Nazrishi. So, this is about 3 people, a high school truant, a girl who's never met her father, and a boy who is a coding genius whose sister left him. and it's basically about how they react to the threat of an alien apocalypse. And I guess it's probably about them sorting out their problems before the end. I believe it's been compared to We Are the Ants, and it sounds kind of similar. It's a heavy contemporary with alien influences. I think this is probably a 5-star prediction for me, so I'm really looking forward to getting to it. Oh, and at least one of the POV characters is queer. Presumably gay? I'm not sure. Next, I got Reverie by Ryan LaSala. And this is about a boy who wakes up in a river with no memories, and it's an urban fantasy about surreal dreamscapes, and that's all I know, other than that it's also really gay. And this is another 5-star prediction, because really gay dream magic sounds right up my alley. And the next book is the one that I'm not sure whether it's YA or not, and that is Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire. I've heard this called YA and I've heard it called adult, so I'm not sure which it is, but this is the first book in the Wayward Children series, and it's a novella series about children who have been to fantasy worlds and how they cope when they come back. And it's set in a home for these children, which is run by a woman called Eleanor West, I think? Yeah, Eleanor West. And I think it's also a murder mystery. I've heard great things about this series, so I'm really looking forward to getting into it. Oh, and I've also heard that there are multiple queer characters in this series as well. And lastly, I have The Smoke Thieves by Sally Green. And Sally Green wrote the Half Bad trilogy, which is, I'd say it's a favourite. It's not like a top favourite, but it's a very good series, and I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. I can't exactly remember what this is about, but I know it's multi-perspective high fantasy, and it has at least one queer POV character, and I imagine it's about stealing smoke, whatever that means. But yeah, I have high hopes for this because I really liked Sally Green's previous work. So next I have 3 or possibly 2 fantasy romances, and the first of those, maybe, is Lord of the White Hell, Book 1 by Jin Hale. So I don't really know what this is about, I can't really remember, but from what I understand it's about a magic school, and the protagonist befriends the leader of a gang who is also an heir of some sort, and also a powerful mage. I'm not sure if this is a fantasy romance or just a fantasy with a prominent romance in it. I'm also not sure what the difference is. But anyway, this is basically the first book that comes up in all gay fantasy lists on Goodreads. And I read Jin Hale's other book, the first book in the Rifter series, and I really liked that. And it had great world building and great characters, so I'm hoping this does as well. And next I have Hagar by Lisa Henry. So this is about a thief called Min, whose nephew is cursed by the Sabadine family, or Sabadine, one of those, and to lift the curse he has to find Casimir Stone, who is a member of the Sabadine family, who is refusing to come home, and Min has to bring him home in order to lift the curse on his nephew. But Kaz is hiding in the village of Anhaga, which is ruled by the Fae. So this was apparently really popular among romance groups on Goodreads last year, I think it was, or maybe the year before, so I have high hopes. And the last fantasy romance I have is The Beauty's Brother by Leon Hart. And this is about a guy called Roy who is held captive in order to force his sister to cooperate with breaking a curse on a castle. And he forms an uneasy alliance with his jailer to find another way to lift the curse. I don't know what the curse is, or what the original way to break the curse is, or why it's a bad thing, but I will find out. Yeah, and those are all obviously male-male romances. And lastly, I have 4 adult epic fantasies to talk about. The first of which is The Steel Remains by Richard Morgan. I don't remember what the name of this series is, and I don't really remember what it's about. I just know that it has a gay protagonist, or at least one of them anyway, and I think it has zombies? Because it says there's zombies in the first page, I believe. But it must have sounded good if I wanted it, so I'm excited to get into this as well. And next I have Smiler's Fair by Rebecca Levine. And this is the first book in the Hollow Gods series. And this is about a travelling carnival where any pleasure imaginable can be had for a price. And it's also about a god being reincarnated? I don't know, but it's multiple perspective. I believe at least one POV character is queer, but I might be wrong about that. And it sounds dark and mysterious and possibly disturbing. A carnival where any pleasure can be had. It sounds a bit like a depraved place. I get sort of a darker version of Night Circus vibes, you know? But yeah, the premise is just so intriguing I had to see what it was. And next I have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. So this is the first book in a trilogy set in a world based on recent Chinese history, and I believe the magic system has something to do with psychedelic drugs. So that's interesting. I'll be honest, I don't really know too much about this. The reason I wanted to get it so badly was because I watched an interview with R.F. Kuang on Daniel Green's channel, and the way she talked about the book, the way she talked in general, just really made me want to read her work, because she was very articulate and insightful and intelligent, and I wanted to see how that translated to her fiction. And lastly, I have Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft, and this is the first book in the Books of Babel series, I think that's what it's called. And this is about a guy called Thomas Senlin, and I believe his wife is kidnapped and taken to the top of the Tower of Babel, and the series is about him climbing the tower and rescuing her. Sort of Mario vibes, really. On all the different levels of the tower, there are like, I believe they're like self-contained worlds in and of themselves. At least that's my understanding of it. I don't think it means the actual biblical Tower of Babel, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, this sounds really interesting and I can't wait to read it. So that was every book I got for my birthday, plus a couple of others. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to hear what you thought about them, so please leave that in the comments. Just don't spoil me. And also tell me about any books that you've received recently or want to get around to that you're looking forward to reading. I'm going to put this down now because it's really heavy. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. You can follow me on Twitter or add me as a friend on Goodreads if you feel like it, and I will hopefully have another video up soon. But until then, thank you for watching. I've been Isaac and this has been Books with Ike. Goodbye.